All right, everybody, we've had a couple weeks kind of simmer on this district situation. Let's talk a little bit about the future of Lagoon now that we're coming towards the end of the season. Join us today on the XP Project. All right, gone are the days of slow days at the Lagoon Park in Farmington, Utah. You know, we're here on a Sunday, it's midday. They're already in overflow today. It's really cool. I'm honestly really happy for Lagoon right now because when I was a kid, Sundays were dead. Like, there were Sundays I'd come out and like, it's like you and like one of their family at the park. And so it's like, it's really good to see that they're really bringing in a lot of crowds, and that only means money, which means hopefully future improvements for the park, which is what this video's subject is about. We've had 2 weeks now to kind of think about the district, and I've been hearing a lot of your guys' comments. So today we're gonna kind of give some of my speculations based off the comments that I've heard from you guys. So let's jump into this. All right, so on the way back to the district, just still kind of looking at the Peacock Parlor's progress. It's looking really good. And, you know, we're kind of going to be talking about a little bit of future here because, you know, talking about how busy the park is and kind of how, you know, well they're doing financially. But the Peacock Parlor is going to be a huge deal, I think. I know that, like, for some of the younger crowd and stuff, it's not exciting because it's not like a big ride or anything like that. But Lagoon really needs kind of that, like, central restaurant. You know, they've got, like, the beer garden that's kind of like a niche type restaurant, but this is going to be a nice little like parlor. We don't entirely know everything that's going to be, like if it's just going to be ice cream or if there's going to be foodstuffs. Feel free to chime in if you know more than myself about it, but this building's coming along nicely. It's something that the park really needs. All right, so you know, with November coming right around the corner here next week, I do just want to talk a little bit about crowds. I talk about crowds on pretty much every video, but I know a lot of people that watch these don't watch every video of mine. But when you're talking about crowds, I mean, look at how busy it is right now. I mean, Frightmares is just going to kind of always be busy. It's the busiest time of the year, as is with a lot of other amusement parks out in California and stuff. But my big thing is, if you're really coming here on a day like this and you see how crowded it is, and you're like, when do we come to Lagoon? Like, when's times where it's not? There's not really any time anymore where it's not crowded. It's just, I mean, there's slower days, but in my experience, and obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like your weekdays during the summer are your best shots. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, during the middle of summer, people just have a lot going on. Those times of year, kids, you know, kids sports, you know, there's a lot of activities. People are going on family vacations. So that seems to be the best time, in my opinion, still. But during this time of year, it's just going to be busy. But the haunted houses do pull a lot of the crowd, so it might not feel as busy as the parking lot makes it look. But it's pretty busy today, and I'm liking it. All right, so with some of that stuff out of the way, so I'm kind of looking back here, and here's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm hearing a couple different, you know, 2-3 different scenarios from everybody here in the comment section on what they think this could be, and I'll give you what my final decision is, what I think it's going to be too. Now, I have talked to some people, but I don't have anybody that's given me like a definitive yes, this is what it is. But I have heard people kind of lean. I'm talking about just people I've talked about around here, lean towards like one specific of these things. So the first thing that I'm hearing, and I'm feeling like this is probably the least likely, is that this is just going to be a kind of a restaurant scenario. Like the district would be like kind of like maybe like a group of restaurants, fast food type stuff. The only reason I'm kind of hesitant to think that that is the case is because I don't really feel like Lagoon needs necessarily more restaurant stuff right now, especially with them putting so much allocation into the Peacock Parlor. So that's the first thing. Second thing I'm hearing is that people think that the district is going to be a set of shops. I think if I remember right, there is a place called the district or something, I think down in Salt Lake, that is a set of shops. And I think some people are kind of thinking that, like, you know, since that was named that, maybe they're naming this the same thing. Again, I don't think that's as likely, just because, I don't know, this park is needing some kind of immediate growth, especially, you know, I'm here on a Sunday and we're in overflow. This park needs some growth. It needs some line pulling. I just don't think that that's it. The third scenario, which I think is the most likely, and this is what we're going to talk about a little bit today, is that this is going to be actually like a new land area. And whether that includes Rattlesnake Rapids, because it's so close together, I'm thinking the district might be an area of like multiple rides. Now, just to be clear to everybody, I'm not saying that they're going to be putting like a cannibal style ride back here. We're talking like, that's like, you know, tens of millions of dollars. I think it's going to be smaller type rides, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they had something like, you know, maybe like that kids Jeep ride that's up towards the kids area, something kind of small like that. Maybe something a little bit like the Bambora as like a kind of smaller roller coaster, and then maybe like a spin ride, something a little bit like Air Race or something like that. That's just kind of like a basic spin ride. So that's my opinion right now. We'll keep talking about this, but I think that that's the most likely, just based on kind of what I'm hearing and what they're doing here. Now, they also do have, you know, construction equipment back here, and they've actually got a couple spots where they've actually laid a little bit of cement in certain areas. So they're actively working on this thing. I know that a lot of people, they see that coming soon sign, they're like, oh boy, coming soon could mean like 5 years. I really think this is something we're going to see fairly quickly. And if it is 3 kind of mini rides, you got to think like those, like the little Jeep ride up front and stuff, those rides are usually pre-built somewhere, like in a factory or in a warehouse somewhere, and then they just bring them in, plop them in, you know, and ground cement and everything like that's not super, you know, complicated. So this is something I really think we could see by maybe next summer, the more I'm thinking about it. Now, if it does end up being like a big cannibal style ride, I think we are like 3 or 4 years away from it. But I just don't feel like they're going to put something like that here because the space just isn't there, which actually gets me to my next point. We're looking at this whole eating area right here, which really is almost unused every day. I mean, we're in overflow today and there's maybe like 1 person sitting back here. I just think that it would make sense that they're going to tear this whole area out too. I think they'll wait till the off season, but I mean, there's not really anything here, and it just makes sense that they could use that room and maybe have like coaster over by where the actual log ride used to be, have a spin ride here in this middle center, and then maybe have like another little ride up towards between Rattlesnake Rapids and where the district's going to be. So out of those 3 scenarios, which, I mean, barring some crazy announcement, I think that really one of those 3 scenarios is the only option. I guess there could be a 4th option that it's just 1 ride, but they're not going to call 1 ride the district. I think the name's very telling because it says that it's an area, not just a ride. And I didn't really think about that until you guys started making comments. But I really think it's unlikely that it's just 1 ride. But that is a 4th option because you just never know. It could be a ride called the district, which I think is unlikely. They do have all the wood boarding up here by the old entrance to the log ride. And my assumption would be, because the way that it's located, I think the entrance to the district's still going to be this spot where the entrance to the log ride was, because it just makes kind of the most sense. But they did bring down those boards, which kind of tells me that they're actively working on this thing. I think what's going to happen is, you know, we've got about, you know, 3 weeks till we start getting like kind of worse weather. But I mean, we have dry years in Utah too, so I mean, it could be one of the years where we hardly see any snow. It's just so random here. But you know, they've still got 3 good weeks to work on this. They've clearly got construction equipment out, and then I think once the park closes, I think they're really going to hit this hard because they can put a lot more manpower towards it. I guess one thing I didn't really mention too is we're talking about those 3 to 4 scenarios. I guess there is some other scenarios where maybe a couple of those scenarios are together. I mean, what if it's like rides and a restaurant, or like 2 rides and a shop, or like 2 shops and a ride? I guess I'm thinking about it. It could be anything. I just think that it's going to be multiple things regardless, but it could be one of each. It could be a new restaurant, a new ride, and shops. You know, I didn't even think about that scenario as well. Oh man, you know, I mention this every year, but if you're coming out for Frightmares, I know it's hard because there's a lot to do, but just take an hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, just go back into Pioneer Village. It just smells like fall season back here. The trees are changing, you know, the leaves are changing colors. This is the best place to be during Pioneer Village, or during Frightmares time, is Pioneer Village, and they've got that great little walkway by Laguna Beach. You got to come back here. I know it's hard because there's a lot to do, but check it out. There's another thing I have to mention too. You know, I kind of talked about recently that I really hope that they don't ever like get rid of Pioneer Village, and I think it's very unlikely that they ever would, because I know a lot of these buildings are like historical landmarks. And so I don't know if they really could necessarily. I know they could like pack them up and move them somewhere else, like to another amusement park or something. But I think the fact that the district is coming out, the thing that made me the most excited of it is that this part of the park is going to become a huge area now, because it's going to kind of be the new big thing, like kind of like what Primordial pulled when it first opened. And the fact that it's going to bring a lot more people back to a part of the park that I think a lot of people don't even know about just brings me so much joy, because anyone who watches this channel knows it's my favorite part of the park. All right, I also just want to take a second to thank all of you that are watching the channel. We're coming to another season ending. This is my second year doing this, and I just really appreciate you guys. I kind of talked about it last week. I wish I had more time to do this stuff. I do have, a quite big task of daily things that I have to do for my regular job, so I can't be out here like every day like I'd like to. But I do appreciate you guys just being patient with me on my release schedules and stuff, and I just appreciate all the follows and all the support this year. And the other thing I do have to mention is like our channel has just been so great in terms of like the conversation. You guys have given me, I've been coming to this park for close to 35 years now, and you guys have given me so much information that I didn't even know this whole year. And I hope that that just continues, because as we're seeing today with an overflow Sunday, this park is growing massively, and it's only going to get more popular, and I just appreciate all the insight. I always come back here in Pioneer Village, especially during the summer, and this Pioneer Village is quite a bit quieter during the summer because there's not much going on. Halloween time is the best time at Pioneer Village. But I always say during the summer, I was like, oh man, I just wish more people would come back here. And I'm sitting here right now watching the little pumpkin patch, and there's so mmany people back in Pioneer Village right now. And it just brings me so much joy that this part of the park is bringing this many people into it. All right, so let's leave the district talk now. Let's let that kind of simmer for a little bit. I want to hear what you guys are saying about your thoughts on that. So I've got two other things I want to talk about in this video. So we are going to head down towards Colossus side. I think something's going to be happening down there in the next like 10 years. We're kind of getting more far out because district's definitely going to be the next project. But I think something's going to happen down there, because I just feel like the campgrounds is something that's not going to be around forever. And I'll just say that I've kind of heard speculation from different people that might not be around forever. So if you do like the campgrounds, I apologize, but I just don't think it really brings the revenue in that like maybe an attraction could bring. And you got Farmington Canyon right next to Lagoon. It's like there's places to camp. You got Cherry Hill, things like that. So we're gonna go down there. I kind of want to look down there and kind of see what kind of room it is, and if there's speculation that maybe there could be something coming there eventually. All right, so this is not a construction video, but we are talking about the future, and that kind of applies to everything. So the swings are running today with fake people in them. They've got these like orange and clear like dummies sitting in all the seats. This is just a thing that parks do to like make sure the rides are balanced correctly and everything. So I think that this could actually be running maybe by like next weekend, because they've got a bunch of people working on that today, actively working on it with those dummies in it. This is great news, because this does pertain to the future of Lagoon, and I just love it. This ride being down this year really was kind of a bummer. All right, so I did talk about this last week, but I think it needs to be said again. So what's kind of happening right now is we've got like the whole Primordial pull that's happening, and everybody's pulling to that north side of the park. Now that doesn't mean that the south side's completely dead, but definitely people are pulling up to that north side of the park. We desperately need something, cannibal, primordial, wicked level down here on the south side of the park. It would pull a lot more crowds. Everybody's just up on that north side, and it's really causing like a lot of bottlenecks, especially on the real crowded days. So as we're talking about Lagoon's future in this video, I think that something will come down here, probably most likely in that area where the campgrounds are at some point. Now we're getting way out now. This is probably something that would be like in the next like 10 to 15 years, but I really think after the district is done, I think that we're going to see something on that level, either here, or we're going to talk about the third thing that I wanted to talk about here in just a little bit. But I want to look at this first, but I think that this is something that could pop up maybe in the next like 10 to 15 years. So I'm over here in Colossus's queue because I wanted to kind of scope out the campground area. I used to go to this campground when I was a kid, but I haven't been in there for so long. There is more than enough room over there to have like a cannibal style size ride for sure. And I think that at some point we're gonna see that, and I think that it has to come to that at some point, because these campgrounds people just don't do it. It doesn't seem like as much. It's much cheaper to just go camping, like up in the mountains, or just, you know, I mean, here in Utah, there's so many places you can go. I feel like something's gonna go there at some point, but like I said, that's probably gonna be like in that, like, you know, like 10 to 15, it could even be 20 years out. But I just wanted to talk about that while we're on the subject of the future. Think how cool that would be if they had like a Disney, like Tron style ride over where the campgrounds are, where it's kind of something just a little bit unique, because, you know, like part of me wants like another wooden roller coaster, but they're never gonna tear that one down. I would love a wooden roller coaster, kind of like Knott's Berry's Ghost Rider. But they're never gonna tear that down, and we've already kind of got a lot of still track coasters. It would be cool to see like a Tron style ride, maybe where like you're on like horses or something, akin to that one that's at Knott's Berry Farm as well, but like a bigger, you know, kind of grand scheme ride too. And I'm looking these views from up on top of the queue in Colossus. There is plenty of room over there for multiple rides, and I think it would be a good idea for them to put something there in the next 10 years. So with that in mind also, I'm actually in Colossus's line, so I'm gonna go on that real quick. I am gonna head up to the north side, because I wanna talk about the third thing I wanted to talk about today, just for as far as like Lagoon's future. Just kind of giving some insight on what I think could come in that area. But I wanna ride on Colossus first. Oh, that's so great going on Colossus. All right, I also did want to give a shout out to Noah. She watches my channel, and I just want to say thank you so much. All right, so I wanted to get your guys' opinion on something. I know that like the whole like fast pass system's been kind of a sore subject this week, because Disney came out with that like $400 a day fast pass that like doesn't even really make anything that much better. Since we're talking about Lagoon's future, do we think that the fast pass system will some point like hit this park? Because they've got the fast passes for the haunted houses, and as somebody that used those, they are very effective. And so if they're making enough money on those, it wouldn't shock me that maybe they make some kind of fast pass system for like the big boys, like Cannibal, Primordial, Wicked. The only issue that I see, and the reason why I don't think this is anything that's going to come real soon, is that the whole queues have to kind of be redesigned to do that. I think Cannibal's the only one that's kind of got something set up. Wicked you could, because you could go that back way where the lockers are. But a lot of these older rides, like White Roller Coaster and stuff, they would have to be completely redone, the queues, or split the queues in half, or it would be a lot of work. But I think it's coming eventually, because I think these parks like Disney realize how much money they can make doing it. But I don't think it's something that we're gonna see in the next like 3 to 5 years. I'm just cracking myself up so much, because, you know, it's like, I'm just so excited about how busy this park is. I know a lot of people don't like parks to be busy, because it's like, oh boy, we're gonna be waiting in lines. But I mean, I don't ride a ton of rides when I'm out here. I just like to be here. Same with Disney. And it's like, just seeing the park this busy, I mean, just 4 to 5 years ago, I remember walking through this park on a Sunday, and I was like, I don't know if this park's gonna stay in business. I mean, there were days where I'm like, they're guaranteed spending more money than what they're making just on overhead costs, electricity, things like that. This place is jamming on a Sunday. I just can't believe how busy this park's getting, and I just love it, because it means that people are having a good time. All right, so I did want to just mention on my way back up to the north side of the park, Lagoon right now is doing an end of season blowout sale. So what it basically is if you buy any item $25 or less, you get a second item of equal or lesser value for $5. And then if you buy an item over 25, you get a second item for equal or lesser value for $10. So it's just a good thing to do at the end of the year. They're kind of just trying to get rid of their stock, because they're gonna have new stuff for next year. So it helps the park out, but it gets you a little bit of a discount on stuff. And honestly, it's all Lagoon themed, so it doesn't really matter that it's from this year. And some of this stuff you might not be able to get again. So maybe look for stuff that maybe has like the 2024 date on it, or things like that, because that stuff will not be around anymore. So chime in if you can. Remind me if they did this end of summer blowout sale last year, because, you know, I'm somebody that just likes to like really look into things really deeply on why things are happening a certain way. And having this sale kind of tells me that they may be like trying to get rid of old product, because they've got a lot of plans for like new product coming in, which is a really good sign for the future. I don't remember if they did this last year. It might just be something they do every year, but if this is something that they're just starting to do this year, it does kind of tell me that they're probably going to be starting to have a lot more more like new product coming in the future years. All right, so now we're back up to the north side of the park. Here's my opinion up here. Something has got to go in that open field that's back, you know, to the north side of Cannibal at some point. Again, this is going to be a huge project, whatever they put in there. I don't see them putting like, you know, like a food court or a kiddie land or anything like that over there. They could put like another like primordial style, you know, type big deal roller coaster out there. I think that that's probably looking more towards that like 15, 20 years down the road, which, I mean, I'm starting, you know, I just turned 40 this year, so I might be pushing 60 by the time anything like that's done. But the reason I feel like something's gonna go there is because it's a real eyesore. Like when you're coming around kind of by the DMV over there into the park, it's just this kind of ugly, empty field. And I just think at some point that's gonna have rides in it. More than anything, like that curb appeal is really important for a place like this because, I mean, I've been in Utah my whole life, but like I still talk to a lot of people like at work and stuff that don't even know that this place exists. And just putting like another big ride like Cannibal over there just gives it so much curb appeal from the freeway, because the freeway's literally a rock throw from that side of the park. And so if you're driving down and you see like Wicked stack and then you see the huge Cannibal building, you're like, what is that? Because you know, you can't even tell what it is from far away. And then you see another ride, you know, and then kind of in the distance you see that primordial mountain. It would give a lot of curb appeal, but I think something's gonna go in here at some point. If anyone thinks the same, let me know. All right, so one thing that would have to be mentioned though, and like I said, this is probably like 15, 20 years down the road, if they're gonna put an attraction out here, they are gonna have to figure out something first with the parking. And that's why in that 10-year video that I did, I talked about how the parking is gonna have to be fixed at some point. I think what they're gonna have to do is, because this is overflow now, so it's like, they would either have to like limit the park's capacity, which they're probably not gonna do because that's just losing money. Or number two, they would have to do some kind of parking structure instead, because you think about it, if they built like a parking structure in the main area, that would double the size of parking if they did like 1 level or 2 levels or 3 levels. So I think that would make the most sense, just do like, you know, like covered parking structure basically. But they would have to do that because they've got employee parking out here in this side and overflow parking. And I mean, at this point now, I mean, even Sundays it's an overflow now, so they can't get rid of that parking. So they would either have to, you know, change it up or put parking somewhere else. I mean, it always could be a scenario, like I said, it's always just speculation, but maybe they turn the campgrounds into another parking structure and then put the rides down here. But like I said, we're talking like 15, 20 years. I just like to talk about the future. Hey Grant, if you're watching this video, I'm standing in Primordial Shop right now. You're still killing it on the boards. Love it. All right, everybody. That's gonna do it for the video today, talking about kind of the future of Lagoon, a little bit of that district talk. I'd really appreciate it if you guys head down to the comments, just kind of give some of your thoughts on this. Like, a lot of this is just speculation. I kind of hear rumblings from people out here, and you know, some people probably know a lot about it, some people don't know anything about it, but I just think it's fun to talk about it. You know, it's always fun to look towards the future, and that goes with everything in life. In your personal life, at Lagoon, you know, I look at a lot of the Disney stuff too. So I just really appreciate all you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for following. Thanks for joining us on the XP project.